I now give the floor to the Secretary General, His Excellency, Mr. Antonio Guterres.
Mr. President, Excellencies, when war is waged, people go hungry. Some 60% of the world's undernourished people live in areas affected by conflict. No country is immune. In April, the World Food Programme and its partners distributed food and cash to more than 3 million Ukrainians. Until March, their country was feeding the world with abundant supplies of food. I thank the United States government for focusing on this crucial issue during its presidency of the Council. Last year, most of the 140 million people suffering acute hunger around the world lived in just 10 countries: Afghanistan, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Ethiopia, Haiti, Nigeria, Pakistan, South Sudan, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. 8 of these countries are on the agenda of this Council. Let there be no doubt, when this Council debates conflict, you debate hunger. When you make decisions about peacekeeping and political missions, you make decisions about hunger. And when you fail to reach consensus, hungry people pay a high price.
Mr. President, at the most basic level, armed conflicts create hunger. When combat destroys farms and factories, forces people to leave behind their harvests, provokes shortages, and causes prices to rise. Today, the impact of conflict is exacerbated by the climate crisis and economic insecurity, which is also aggravated by the pandemic. As a result, decades of progress in the fight against hunger are currently being obliterated. I saw this with my own eyes during my visit to the Sahel 2 weeks ago. Let us take the example of Niger, which faces extremist armed groups and cross-border incursions from Mali and Nigeria. Only 6% of the population is completely vaccinated against COVID-19. Niger is in last place on the Human Development Index and is one of the 10 countries that are most vulnerable to climate change. The number of people in a situation of food insecurity has more than doubled over the course of the last 2 years. Without immediate action, that number might reach 4 million by the end of this year. Niger and its neighbours have an urgent need for coordinated international mobilization at the broadest level, which strengthens the links between peace, humanitarian action, adaptation to the impact of climate change, and sustainable development.
To help respond to this growing crisis, I'm pleased to announce today that we are releasing $30 million from the Central Emergency Response Fund, CERF, to meet urgent food security and nutrition needs in Niger, Mali, Chad, and Burkina Faso. But it is a drop in the ocean. Even it brings to almost 95 million the funding channeled through CERF to the Sahel since the start of the year. Mr. President, I'm also deeply concerned by the food security situation in the Horn of Africa, which is suffering the longest drought in 4 decades. More than 18 million people are affected, and the World Food Programme warns that millions of people in Somalia face famine within months. The perilous state of food security in Ethiopia and Somalia is compounded by continued conflict and deep insecurity. Mr. President, around the world, 49 million people in 43 countries are in emergency levels of hunger, known as IPC4, just one step away from famine. In other words, they are facing starvation and are doing everything they can to survive. As always, women and girls are worst affected, and this is reflecting in rising rates of trafficking, forced marriage, and other abuses. More than 500,000 people in Ethiopia, South Sudan, Yemen, and Madagascar are already at the so-called IPC level 5, which means catastrophic or famine conditions. The war in Ukraine is now adding a frightening new dimension to this picture of global hunger. Russia's invasion of its neighbor has effectively ended its food exports. Price increases of up to 30% for staple foods threaten people in countries across Africa and the Middle East, including Cameroon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. I discussed this deeply troubling situation with the leaders of Senegal, Niger, and Nigeria during my last visit. They confirmed we are on the brink of a perfect storm that threatens to devastate people and economies. Our humanitarian operations are gearing up to help, backed by proven record of success. Humanitarian agencies and their partners helped to bring 6 countries in South Sudan back from the brink of famine last year. 6 counties, in South Sudan back from the brink of famine last year. They also prevented the worst outcomes over the past 6 years of conflict in Yemen, where food aid reached more than 10 million people a month in 2021. But humanitarians are also suffering the impact of rising food prices. In East Africa, the cost of food assistance has increased on average 65% in the past year. WFP has already been forced to reduce its support to 8 million hungry people in Yemen. Mr. President, I believe there are 4 actions countries can take now to break the deadly dynamic of conflict and hunger. First, investment in political solutions to end conflicts, prevent new ones, and build sustainable peace. Most important of all, we need to end the war in Ukraine. I call on all Council members to do everything in your power to silence the guns and promote peace in Ukraine and everywhere.